Bam, this is the design we're working on today. Okay, bam, bam. All right. Yeah, super. A lot of stuff happening in the background too. All right. Um, got a lot of good news, a lot of good announcements that I'm about to share right now. All right. Man, what time is it? All right, we're just 10 minutes. It was just a 10-minute delay. All right. So I'm sorry about that. Literally, like right when I was about to push, well, actually I pushed go live and then the video camera went down, like the video feed. And I tried to troubleshoot it for a minute. Then I finally just restarted my computer and bam, we're good. All right. Um, so today we are digitizing. Show you real quick. Bam, that's the France. This is the national team logo, right, that they have on their jersey. All right, let me zoom in a bit. All right, so I'm gonna say this one here, right? Level of difficulty. All right, level of difficulty. I'm gonna say it is easily up there on the high 7, 8, 9, maybe even 10. All right, depending how detailed you want to go with it. Okay, from and I'm saying like from level of difficulty with being one being the easiest to 10 being the hardest. Okay, today's logo easily 7, 8, 9, maybe even a 10 of level of difficulty, of which it can be. Okay, so today we're gonna grind and we're gonna talk about some of the settings we got to look out for. And really, I'm pretty sure everybody goes through a design, whether you digitize it or you send it out. Everybody goes through a design where there's gaps, right? It's like you could see it from a mile away. Sometimes you're like, oh, nobody's going to notice, but everybody notices. If you notice, everybody notices, especially gaps. There's some stuff where people really won't, tell the difference, but something that we cannot hide are gaps in designs. Okay. And this design right here, if we're not careful, we could get gaps all day. All right. So that's something that I do want to like dive deep in today's episode. Okay. So right now, for starting 2026, I'm digitizing all the emblems, the World Cup national team emblems, all the teams that are participating. So today we're doing the France, and I do have this file. If you are a channel member, it's $9.99 as of today, right? $9.99. All the designs that I'm working on. Okay, I just put it there, and it's for download if you're a channel member. Okay, I know for me, the best way for me to learn something is to actually dive deep and analyze, measure, stitch out, and even improve on designs. So if that's your type of style of learning, okay, I highly recommend you to get the channel member, right? $9.99, right? I don't think it's anything too crazy, right? And that's really just to help support the class and just kind of take care of regular, normal expenses that we have here on the show. Okay. All right. So we're good with that. Okay. Two big news today, right? Two big, huge, like breaking news, stop what you're doing type news. Okay. Announcement number one, right? So next Friday, what's happening next Friday? Is it even next Friday? Let me see. Next weekend. What is happening next weekend? Let's see. Yes, next Friday. Well, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. All right. It's the Impressions show in Long Beach. I don't know if you've ever been there or if you've been to the one in Atlantic City, or the one in Dallas. Okay. But the Impressions show in Long Beach, okay, it's like the Super Bowl of equipment. And embroidery, of course, is like there. All right. So every vendor, anything that deals with embroidery and all the other stuff, right? I just talk about embroidery because that's what I do. But even like stuff that kind of correlates with embroidery, like laser machines, right? But embroidery is going to be in the building, right? Anybody that is in the industry with embroidery, all right, is going to be there. Perfect place to see samples, right? Sanmar, SNS, Alpha Broder, all of them are going to be there. All the major vendors, and the best thing is you can actually like try on stuff, right? Like hats, you could actually see these hats. There's like so many different hat companies that show up. All right, they're gonna be there. And the big announcement that I have, okay, I'm gonna be there on Friday. Okay, I'm gonna be there with Wilcom, their booth, doing a live class. All right, so that's like to me, that's like huge right there. Okay, because now I have the opportunity, right? Usually we're here in this type of environment, which is all good, right? We all learn and we can all gather information from here. But now we're gonna take it like one step ahead, and I'm going to be teaching, all right, a quick course, right? Quick course to really in person, which in person is even better because if there's like a question, right, I could like see reactions, right? So I'll be there Friday. Okay, Friday at 11:30 is my slot. So if you are there, right, make sure you arrive early because Friday, right, Friday anywhere Southern California is traffic. So make sure you get there before 11:30. I'll probably be there hanging out earlier. So if you want to chop it up, anything about embroidery, right? I could speak about embroidery all day. Okay. So more info to come. Okay, more info to come. But put that on your to-do list. Really, if you're anywhere, I would say like 300 miles radius from Long Beach, right? Must. Or even if you're coming from Northern Cali, right? Must on the to-do list. Okay. If there's anything you're gonna do this year, that's probably the one thing you're gonna get the most out of. Okay. Not because I'm gonna be there, right? But just every time that I've gone, okay, I've met the people that run these companies, right? And then you get all these information. All right, cool. So that was my big news. Okay, I got one more bigger news. Well, for me, it's big, right? And it's gonna kind of affect the class here. All right, it's gonna take it to like next level type stuff. All right, and that is so you can see here. I got some boxes, right? And we, our family, all right, we finally, after moving so many places, right? Because I'm in the Navy, and that's what we do in the Navy. We move. Um, Finally bought a house. All right, finally bought a house here, Southern California. So it's crazy. It's like the craziest 2-3 months, right? Trying to take care of buying a house, right? But it's finally going down. Okay, it's finally going down, and I've been kind of holding it. I didn't want to like jinx it or start making announcements before it actually went down. Okay, but it's going down, and a big thing, right? Because you make a checklist when you're buying a house. You gotta make a checklist of everything that you're looking for. That way, the realtor, right? They're kind of on the same wavelength as you. And the big thing was we need a space for our shop, right? Because right now, right, our shop is just jam packed. It's not really like camera friendly. We're pretty much working with the little space that we have. Okay, but now we can finally put out all our equipment because we got a lot of toys, right? Got a lot of toys down there, and now it's actually going to be all laid out so we can like see it all in one view. All right, so that's going to be happening like in the next week, 2 weeks. So as soon as we set up shop, okay, you already know I'm going to go live and I'm going to show you guys what we got. All right, so after today's probably the last live here in our space right here that we're in right now, that we've been here since summer of 2023. So that's already like 2.5 years that we've been here. Okay, finally got a place to actually call home. And for our not only our business but the show, right? And the lives, it's gonna go like next level type stuff. All right, so super excited, right? A lot of stuff happening beginning of the year, right? Things are just moving and moving and moving and moving. All right, and then today we got today's class, which I'm gonna say is like expert level. Okay, expert level digitizing stuff. And really, I'm gonna start saying that this is gonna be my honest opinion about embroidery. Okay, so pretty much everybody here, I would say 99.99% of everybody here in the chat or watching the live, we would all agree, right? We're all here for embroidery, but I would take it a step higher and say, if you do embroidery, I'm gonna label you as a digitizer also, right? I know digitizing, we stay away from digitizing. Sometimes we're like, oh, it's either just too time consuming or it's too tedious. It's something that we don't mess with, right? But really, everybody here is a digitizer, whether you're ground zero digitizer or expert digitizer, right? Everybody, because really, if we're running an embroidery business, we got to know basic text, right? How to do keyboard text. We got to know if there's something wrong with the files. Is there something wrong with the file, or is there something wrong with my machine, right? Usually, I want to say that before blaming the machine, right? We got to analyze the file. Okay, that's why it's important to learn digitizing, because whether you know it or not, you're going to have to troubleshoot certain items. And sometimes there's no point of troubleshooting the machine if it's a design flaw, right? So everybody here in today's show, right? Everybody here on the live, we're all digitizers, right? Whether the only difference is at what level do we fall in. Okay, so continuing and improving your skills is super, super important. Okay. It's something that we can't just let go. We can't just say, you know what, I'm going to learn this next year. It's something that we gotta practice. Okay. So today, I'm this file that we have, I really want to talk about gaps, right? Push pull gaps. Really, when we have two items butting each other, that's usually when we get gaps, because we'll have like this part, this object mixed with this object, and they're pulling each other. What happens? You get like this middle gap in there, right? So that's something we're gonna really talk about today. Okay. Just real quick, let me say hello to the chat. All right. Um, Karen, Blair, how you doing? All right. Let me see. Life bid design. All right. Evelyn, how you doing? Jesse in the house. All right. I'm pretty sure we didn't lose everybody, right? We got a couple people in the chat, so we should be good. Just make sure, right, to hit that like. Let YouTube know we are in the house. Okay, it's Monday. I know it's Monday, right? Bam, bam. All right. Barb, how you doing? Good evening, everybody. Scott, Sunrise Tactical. Right. Doug, Faker. All right. Good to see everybody here. All right. Taylor Made. How's it going? Right. All right. Appreciate your comment. Love to digitize. Right. It's just like shooting free throws, right? Shooting free throws. You after you shoot like 1,000, right? Your body's just gonna do that naturally. Yeah. Hey Juan, how you doing? JC Productions. Happy New Year's. All right. And then, yeah, I'm excited about this one. I am going to share a lot of just organizing stuff. Like me, that's my big thing, is just organizing the shop. We just like to have everything where they're supposed to be. And we already bought like a lot of like storage um, stuff, right? So I'm definitely going to share a lot of that stuff. All right, cool, cool. Tammy, how you doing? Canada in the house. And then I would love to begin digitizing, but where to start in Wilcom? All right, all right, all right, 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 right. One way that I started, I just started digitizing like my dream companies that I would want to work with one day, right? Start digitizing their logos, and then I would compare it to stuff that I would see it at the mall. And you get to the point where you actually start digitizing better than the stuff that you see at the mall, right? It's not always the greatest embroidery that you find in the retail stores, right? Sometimes there is, but sometimes you'll find some stuff where you'll be like, oh, I could do better than this, right? But just right, that would be my suggestion. Just find your favorite company that you would like to work with one day, and then just do your side projects, right? Or probably like local companies that's around your area, right? And then just give them a beanie. Be like, hey, here. Or if you got friends or family, right? Hook them up with something. I think that's the best way to start learning digitizing. All right, let's get to work right now. All right. Bam. So let's start with this. Let me take off this. Just so we can see the graphics here. All right. So we got the rooster, right? Uh, so we could start. I mean, the stars, right? Pretty easy. Text, pretty easy. All right. But let's focus on the rooster right here. All right. So reason why I labeled this as a pretty difficult design, all right, is just because this is a type of design where there wouldn't be a one way how to do it, right? There's no one way to do this design. Really, what I did when I digitized this file, um, I went online and I looked at samples of how other people did it. How did they break it down? So to me, that would be the hardest part of digitizing, is how to convert this, right? And when I'm talking about convert, let's talk about like here, like his beak, right? And his face, kind of like this face area. Like, how would we break this down? Like, for example, okay, for example, everybody's gonna see this face, this beak, in a different point of view. Okay, do you see it like this, where his face is kind of, or to start off, how many pieces of the face do you see? Right. Another thing is, when we measure this, right, we're at 1.8. We're like super tiny right here. In normal 1-to-1 ratio, this would be a 1-to-1 ratio right here. Right? It's like little details that nobody could really even see. All right, so let me see. Okay. But these are the details that's gonna make all the difference. Well, let me do this. All right. Bam, right? So to me, this is the hard part, is how to convert oops, how to convert this into broken objects. Like, how can we break this apart? Bam, all right. All right, hold on. Let me just kind of. All right, so we take it up a bit. All right. It's slowly starting to look like that image, right? And then what plays a big role is what goes first, second, third here, right? So that's the sequencing. So what do we say? This goes first, second, third sequence, right? Makes like a big difference. Like what part of the body or what part of the face or beak should be the main focal point, right? And then these eyes, can't forget about the eyes, right? So I got like a running stitch right here. Bang. You could just put like a walking stitch. Black. Right. If you got a walking stitch and then you push Shift X, it'll just do it ×2. Right. You could just put it wherever it belongs. All right. So when we're at a 1-to-1 ratio, right, it looks kind of like this. All right. So this part, right, this part, nothing too crazy. Okay. This part, what I don't know what this part's called. The part under his, like in his neck, right? I'm pretty sure there's a name for all these parts right here. But we could break this into 2 pieces, right? It's like 1, 2. What would go first? What would go second? So let's do this red. It's gonna be sand stitch, right? Bam, 1. All right, we got 1 part right here, right? Of course, this red part, it would be under the beak, right? But we're gonna sequence it later. Okay, then we got this part. And this is where we're gonna start overlapping, right? We're gonna start overlapping objects. So each shape, each area that I'm doing, that's called a object. All right, just put in the stitch angles. Okay. All right, we can move that up. All right. So you see how it's starting to take shape? We broke down this head, right? We gotta break it up so the thread, it'll make sense with thread. Okay. So here, rooster, the head or the hair, right? We have 4 parts. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, bam. Cut that up. And this is the type of design that there would be no way where somebody would digitize it the same. Like you send this to 10 different digitizers, you're going to get 10 different designs. Or even like me right now, because I digitized this earlier today. And I'm pretty sure as I'm digitizing it right now, it's probably different than than my final one than I made. Because right now I'm kind of like freestyling it. Right? So we're just making that overlap right here. Now, what I think would be a good idea, especially if this is for a big customer or somebody super important, where the job is super important, and or maybe you have graphic design skills like on Illustrator or something. Maybe you could break it up into objects in a graphic design format, right? So you could have a view. Because right now I'm eyeing it, I'm freestyling it, right? Because I'm breaking it up how I see fits. Right. Let's dim down this drawing here. Put the OK right to lock it. Right. So how is it looking so far? It looks like a chicken head, right? All right, and then Barb, thank you for that. The top is the comb, and the bottom is the wattles. All right. Cool, cool. See, we're learning. We're learning right now. Mm-hmm. All right. Now, to me, this is the hard part right here, right? Like the chest area, the main part here, right? Because now, the way I want to do it, I want to make all these satin stitches. Because really, the lazy way, this would be the lazy way to do this design, right? Sometimes the lazy way works, but you could just do a big fill, right? You could just do a big fill stitch. But what we lose is like character, right? Let's say like from right here, right? I would call this the lazy way out or the easy way out. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it works. Right? We just get the stitch angle, or right? Bam. That'd be too easy, right? That would be way too easy right there. Right? Something like that. Still looks like a chicken, right? Still, or not chicken, or rooster, right? But we're trying to give it some foundation, right? So, okay, but that is a way. Don't think that isn't a way. That is a way. So right here, all right. So like what I was saying is, you could take this into a graphics and then kind of draw your lines beforehand, right? Or you could do it here. You can also do it here. I've done it before where you could turn it into some graphics. Hold on, I used to do it a lot, but I usually just do it in Illustrator. But you could turn these into oh yeah, right here, vector outline. Right, so you could draw the vectors here, H. Right, you could turn them into vectors here if you really wanted to. Right, you could do that for all of these, and now you have a better view of how you want it to look. Right, but what I'm going to do, I'm just going to manually put them. So this is just a matter of what do you see? Where do you see these sand stitches? Okay. And one way, which is like my way that I like to do it, I like to, especially something like, especially something where it's a design that's already been established, right? You can go online and see how they did it. Or maybe if it's a company that you're working with and they've already had their emblem already digitized, you could probably take a sneak peek and see how they've done it before, right? Because sometimes there is no set guideline where these how this design is broken up. Okay, so let me just show you here, right? I know the head. I'm gonna stitch the head out last, right? So I know I could tuck some of these parts underneath, right? Anytime we have objects kind of butting up to each other, we want to have overlaps, underlaps, right? So that's the big thing for today is creating overlaps. Right, so we got here, and we got stitch our Control H to put my stitch angles. And then we can measure this, M. Right, super tiny. So we could either do two things or a couple of things, but we could bring this out more. So we could select all these, like the ones that we want to select. So I just hold shift and then it selects those. And then you could pull this out a bit, right? To kind of do it. That's one way. Another way. So let me find. This is gonna be another sand stitch right here. So let's say I'm digitizing it exactly like how it's drawn, right? Sometimes you want like a perfect trace, right? The only thing about doing a perfect trace is that we're not taking the push-pull into account. Right? So we might get, it might be very tiny. Control H just to, because right now my stitch angles are all crazy. Right, so put it right there, bam, bam. Put it again, Control H is how I control. Oh, I see. Hold on. What's going on? All right. All right, something like this where I might not have enough overlap, right? There's probably like a 0.5 overlap. Okay, this is where I kind of use my secret sauce right here, which is the pull comp. Right, pull comp. Anytime I have a bunch of sand stitches rolling together, okay, I might even bump it up to a 0.4. Okay, sometimes it might seem excessive, but when you have sand stitches bumping up to each other, okay, that plays a huge role right there. So I'll pull this out and tap it. All right, so now it starts looking like a whole solid piece right here. All right. I would say the difficult part about this design, okay, let me just talk about the difficult part about this design is the sequencing. Okay, so I'm going to show you the design that I made. Okay, and then I'm going to talk about some lessons learned that I had creating the design. Okay, but to me, the sequencing, what goes first, second, third, fourth, right? Where do we finish? And we want to do all this with the least amount of trims possible. Okay. Here the feet, chicken feet, right? We don't even have a clean guide of how it should look. Okay, so that's where the image that I had that I was using as a resource, it broke it up. So it really, I just needed to know how many feet it had. Right, it had like 3 coming out, or toes, or I'm pretty sure there's a proper term for their feet, right, for each toe. But we can go, we could break up the leg into pieces, right? So that's the big thing about digitizing, is we're breaking our design into pieces. Okay, so we can do that. Okay. Sometimes we just got to use our imagination and create our own. Right, something like that. And then do one side first. Control H to get my stitch angles. All right, so it looks like one piece, right? It looks like one solid piece. And then this is where we got to use our brain power. And that's really where our brain power is coming up, is the sequencing. Okay, so we could go here. We could put our underlay, usually center run for something this small. Okay, I know when we measure this, right, 0.88, we might, the way I cheat and I add a little bit more, a bigger size, is just by the push-pull comp, right? Push-pull comp. So anytime you're doing pull compensation here, just think you're adding, in this situation, 0.17 times 2, because it's both sides, unless you separate the sides here, but for this one, right? So if I put a 0.3, I'm adding 0.6. Okay, if I'm doing 0.48, right? So sometimes it looks excessive on the design here, okay, but in real life, right, when we stitch this out, right, 1.11, it's going to be all good. Okay, we definitely don't want to go too tiny when we're doing these sand stitches. All right. Let me show you my design, right? Because it does take a minute to do all these individual, I'll call them feathers, right? Each feather, and then to sequence them. But this is my final design. Okay. Right. The only thing I didn't do was this bottom part, which I'm gonna finish it. I'm gonna record the stitch out of this design, and then I'll include this bottom part. It's like a grass. It's supposed to represent a grass area, so we can make that green. All right, so you can see kind of. Let me make these eyes black so we can see. All right. So you can see how this overlap, right? Now we're just overlapping right here. Let's check our stats right here. Design information, super important right here, because that tells me how many trims we have. Right, 10 trims. So usually I play like a contest with myself, and I try to see what's the least trims I can do. I could have probably got 2 less trims than 10, right? But there was one where I kind of locked myself out, and I was like in a dead end zone where I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna start a new play. But really, like from star to star, I'm gonna have a trim there, and from letter to letter, I'm gonna have a trim there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I know I'm gonna at least have 6, and then with the color change, 7, 8, 9. So I know minimum there should be 9, but I got 10 trims, which is all good. All right, I'll take that. Stitches, 5,622. Let's check out the size of this. All right, so let's check US height. So it's at about 3 inches. All right, 3 inches, which I think is good for like a polo shirt, right? Super polo shirt friendly or garment friendly. All right, let me push play, and let's see this sequence, because that's really what I want you guys to take away from today is what sequence did I go with, right? But you could see how here, right? He looks like he's super muscular right here. But I'm looking at the file, the stitch out. I'll show you the stitch out too. I have the stitch out on my hand right here. But when you see the stitch out, everything flattens out like real clean. All right. All right, let's push play. All right, so we're going to start with this part. All right. See the wattles. All right, we're going to do the wattles, then the comb. All right, so you saw that I have a center run stitch as a my underlay. Okay, bam, it's going to walk its way up. And then we got this overlap. The comb right there, bam. All right, and it's going to trim. All right, all good, right? Stayed right there. So this walking stitch, it's all good because it's going to get covered up. All right, now, so I'm going to put a little walking stitch underlay or global underlay just to kind of smooth our fabric out. Then it's going to start down here with the feet. Right, so you see our feet. And then we're going to look at this push-pull that I had, because on when I did the first draft, when I stitched out the first draft, I had some good amount of gaps. So my easy fix is to add push-pull, the pull compensation. All right, that way I'm not really messing with the design too much. Okay, so I'm going to do the legs first. Okay. Okay, and then this part of the leg, you're going to see how I broke it up into 2 pieces. You see that? Then on the stitch out, really, they have the same stitch angle. So it's looking like one piece. Okay, and then I'm starting from this side, this bottom part. I start from the bottom part first, then kind of work my way to the right. All right, and then it's the the player is going to stop when there's a trim. So it tells me. So you can see that overlap that I have, right? Sometimes it looks excessive, but I'm telling you, when there's a curve, when you're getting two objects butting against each other, especially on the curve, we need more overlap. All right, so this part is that outside tail. Let me speed it up a tad bit. All right, just real quick. Here, you can see the design actually has a gap in between these feathers, these outside feathers. All right, so the gap is all right. I don't have to go all crazy doing overlaps and all that. Right, but it's just the main part of the body where it's the overlaps. Bang. All right, we still haven't had a cut yet with the yellow portion. Bam, right here. That's my first cut because really I ended right here, and I want to start my way up on top. Right, maybe I could have done a walking stitch, just jumped it over right here because I'm already here. All right, but it's all good. All right, continue up here, and then here is where I need a good amount of overlaps. Bam. Then the head. All right, now it's looking like our chicken right there. All right. And I'm telling you, he looks like super buff right here, right? Like in the design, but in reality, he don't look like that. Bam, the eye. And we just do that outside portion, right? It's just a single 2 millimeters sand stitch. Just trace that line. Okay, nothing fancy. I didn't do anything crazy. All right, then the stars. Bang. Bang. And the letters. All right. Then we're going to talk about the letters real quick in a bit. All right. And then that's pretty much it right there. Right. Easy day. Easy day. All right. One thing about the letters. Let me show you something cool. All right. Really, there's 1,000 ways we could do this letter. Right. Letters is really one of the easiest things we can do. But let's just push the keyboard shortcut T, or here this letter A. Okay. Block 2 is my favorite one. We could go hours and hours trying to find the exact font for this, but we could just push create text, right? And then it's telling me press mouse button to start text. All right, so I got this text that looks fairly close. Let me take away any type of underlay. All right, so all I'm going to do is size this up. So if you pull the corner, it's going to size it up and it's going to keep the ratio. All right, so you can see that this font is not 100% the design, right? So we could, what I can do, I could pull this and make it as close, just on some parts, right? Some parts. Okay, so we're almost there. It's just this one, this side is too long, right? Let me pull this up a tad bit. All right, we're like 65% there. But what I want to do, I just want to break this apart. Right, break this apart. Now I have these two separate, right, on its own object. Okay, we could just get it closer now. Here, right, H allows me to fix it down here. Bam. Right, select these. Then with my arrow, I could just push down. Right, you could get this like picture perfect. I can select this side, shift, click on this one, and then just pull it. Select these three. Right, now we got this perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. I want this one to go first, then this one second, sequence. Okay. H to start here in the middle, and here. Then this one, H. Start where I ended here, and then end right there. Maybe put a walking stitch here, or a center run, right? One thing that I do, okay, I did it here too. So you can see my length. Metric. What I do with text, okay, 1.16 was pretty small. What I just do, I'll do a pull comp of like either 0.25 or 0.3. Okay, sometimes it looks like excessive. You could also drop this a tad bit down. Okay. It just gives it a little bit oomph. All right, and we just right click, hold control. All right, now we got like perfect lettering right there. All right, bam, bam. All right, one thing that I wanted to show you for the stars. Right. Usually with stars, if you're digitizing it exactly like the picture, right, it's gonna be real tiny. Okay, real tiny. Where so 0.69, right? The details of the star is not gonna look real sharp. So this is where I do my little, put a little bump, 0.35, right? Extraness, right? It looks like excessiveness, but that's one thing that I've learned, that you can't just base it off the software. You kind of have to anticipate. All right, this is gonna tighten up a tad bit. All right, and then Scott, appreciate this one. You can use the reshape tool. Click the wireframe. It will show the notes. Yep. So let me show you exactly what Scott is talking about. Right. So actually, I was gonna show you 3 different ways to do it. So that was this first F was one way. Let's do it again. All right, but without breaking it apart. All right, so let's bring this down here. Let's take out this underlay. Just at least try to get it as close. And then what you can do, H, right, and then click on these little wire diagram. Then you get the nodes. So now, if you don't even want to break it apart, right? Sometimes you don't want to break the text apart. Or if you have like a word, full word, you can still select these, push right. So we still did it without breaking it apart. Okay. Right. So that's like, and then the second way or the third way to do it, we could just manually digitize it. There's times where it's just quicker just to manually digitize something. Right, and then you can just sequence everything. Right. All right. Cool. Appreciate that one. All right. So let's look at some of this push-pull. So here, right, you can see how this part, I didn't affect it. I didn't put a lot of push-pull. And I can do that because my pull compensation, this is where I put it on one side only. So on one side, I put 0.4. And then the second side, I just kept it as, right? So that's one of the best features that I like, right? In 2026 is that one right here, where I can control the left side of push-pull and the right side of the push-pull. Right? Now here, this smaller one, right? You can see. Okay, because in real life, this distance is just like 1 millimeter. So I added 0.45. That gives me 9.9 millimeters. All right, and it's just gonna cover those gaps. Okay, so let me show you the stitch out. All right, because it only makes sense, right? Because learning digitizing, learning embroidery is a 3-step process. It's the theory, right? Somebody's gonna tell you, hey, do it like this, that, right? But that's not enough, right? Because we have to actually digitize it, right? So we need to do the reps, the clicks. And then the most important thing, we need to see it with our eyes. After we digitized it and we saw it the way it's on the screen, we need to see it with our own eyes getting stitched out. Right? All right. I'm gonna zoom in real quick because if I put it too close, the lights. Well, all right. So what I really like pretty good zoomed in, right? But what I want you to focus is the overlaps, right? I'm trying to move it so you can see it like at a certain angle, right? Sometimes the light it blows out the details, but there we go. Right, put it like at a good angle. Right. So now this design has character. Right, it has character. Instead of just putting a fill stitch, right, you can see the details. Right. So oh man, it was way too close right there. My bad. Forgot about the zoom right there. um, so big thing that I want to highlight today. Okay, because I'm pretty sure everybody here, right? If you've done embroidery, you've had that problem where we have the gaps. Now, if I were to take out this pull compensation, just uncheck this. It's funny because it looks like he just lost 20 pounds, right? If we were to leave it like this, right? Heavy gaps. Even though it looks like when I digitized it, you can still see some of the overlaps, right? But sometimes the manual overlaps is still not enough, right? So I'm gonna Control Z. And he's gonna look a little buffer. Boom, I got buff, right? So that to me, right, pull comp, that's my secret sauce right there. The pull compensation. Now we have the ability to go separate sides, right? Like I did on this front part. Even this part, 0.25. So sometimes you don't have to go too crazy, 0.25, right? Standard is 0.17, but when you're getting objects butting each other, I like to give it a little bit more of an oomph. All right. One thing, just as a reminder, channel members, right? $9.99 a month. If you get the channel member through the laptop, they don't charge you the fee like if you get it with your iPhone, right? For some reason, Apple charges that extra thing. But if you are a channel member, all right, the file's available right now. And then you could see it stitch out, right? So you can see it with your own eyes. Or if you're not, you could digitize it and try to see if you could kind of add your pull comp, right? So I always encourage everybody, right, to just go out there, digitize your favorite team, right, just for your own personal files, right, just so you can see that relationship of push pull, and when images or when objects are butting each other, right? How much push, how much coverage overlap do you need, right? And this one right here is really the design where you really learn and understand that overlap. All right. So if you're watching on the replay, all right, hit that like. If you got any questions, comments, anything, embroidery, all right, leave a comment, leave a question, and by the time we do the next live, right, we'll probably be at the new place, the new house, the new shop, the new live. Okay, so super excited for that. All right, if you see me in Long Beach next Friday, say what's up. All right, I'm gonna have a good lesson ready in the works already. All right, so I'm super pumped for that one. All right, other than that, see you guys on the next one. Peace out.